Welcome to Tales of the Alleghenies. Soldier's tragic demise. Here in Somerset County, Pennsylvania, from the time of the French and Indian War of the 18th century to the World War II of the 20th century, convoys of soldiers have crossed these Allegheny mountains to prepare for war. When moving troops, accidents do happen, and countless injuries and deaths occur before reaching a battlefield. Manifest destiny was a compelling term held by many in the United States during the 1840s. A belief by some that the United States was superior and should control all of North America. President James Polk annexed Texas on December 1845 from Mexico, creating the 28th state in the Union. For Mexico, this was the final act of aggression by the United States, resulting in breaking off all negotiations of boundaries and financial settlements. Armed conflict broke out on the banks of the Rio Grande on April of 1846. President Polk asked Congress for a declaration of war against Mexico, and war was declared May 13, 1846. President Polk immediately called for volunteers. Was it patriotism or a sense of adventure for a young man to enlist and fight in the war so far away as Mexico? Unfortunately, as fate would have it, the soldier I'm going to tell you about, his test of courage never made it to a battlefield. Captain John M. Washington, a native of Virginia and West Point graduate, was recruiting men in Harrisburg and Carlisle, Pennsylvania to fill the ranks of his Company B, 4th U.S. Flying Artillery. Flying artillery simply refers to a horse-drawn, lightweight carriage with mounted cannons that could be rapidly deployed for tactical advantages. Captain Washington's company consisted of 85 men, besides 8 or 10 men attached to the baggage train. The company's artillery consisted of 4 Model 1841 bronze 6-pound cannons and 2 12-pound howitzers, plus all the equipment to form a complete battery, including 100 horses. His orders were to meet General John Wool's division in San Antonio, Texas. The artillery train left Carlisle, Pennsylvania on the 25th of June, 1846, heading west, traveling about 14 to 20 miles per day. From Bedford County, they would turn south onto the Glade Pike. It was July 1st, 1846, when nearing the summit of the Allegheny Mountain, perhaps near where the White Horse Tavern, where the road is steep and windy, one of the teams of horses took fright, causing one of the soldiers who was seated on the caisson to be thrown onto the roadway and was run over. He survived only a few minutes. The same day, another artilleryman was injured when a bolt sheared off the limber carriage, and he too was thrown from his seat. This soldier fortunately recovered from his injuries. Another soldier, Private William Katzer, aged 22, was born in Somerset, Pennsylvania, and enlisted at Carlisle on May 15, 1846, with Company B. He may have given Captain Washington some insight on their route to Somerset. The deceased soldier's body was transported to Somerset, where he was interred the same evening, here in the Lutheran, or what is now called the Union Cemetery, with full military honors. Divine service was conducted by the Reverend Peter Reiser of the Lutheran Church that was located near here of the cemetery. Standing here beside his grave, I can almost feel the solace of that moment when final tribute was made by Captain Washington and his fellow comrades of Company B. The battery encamped overnight at Lichtenberger's Grove, about a half-mile from town. I have stood at this monument many times and have wondered who this young man was and how he was accidentally killed. Through my research, this will be the first time the facts of this soldier's demise has probably been told since 1846. Let's read the monument. Samuel Boucher, a native of Oswego County, New York, aged 18 years. An enlisted soldier of the United States Army was accidentally killed near this place on his way to the Mexican War, May 25, 1846. The stone is erected to his memory by the citizens of Somerset. Here the humble soldier sleeps, o'er whose grave no parent weeps. Then let each feeling heart draw near, and o'er his ashes drop a tear. Beautifully done, but his name is not Samuel Boucher, but Samuel Poucher, and he did not die on May 25th, but on July 1st, 1846. May 25th is the date that he enlisted in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. This information is all part of a military record. His enlistment describes Samuel as 5 foot 5 inches tall, gray eyes, light hair and complexion, and occupation as a farmer. How this mistaken information on this monument came about, I guess that will remain a mystery. An article from the Somerset paper dated July 17, 1895, 49 years later, gives wrong information on where the unit was from and location of the accident. Although the journey for Samuel Poucher ended here in Somerset, Pennsylvania, I found it interesting how Company B made its way to Texas. A little later in the story, you will also hear about another man from Berlin, Somerset County, Pennsylvania, who enlisted with Company B while they were encamped near Somerset. Captain Washington gives a short itinerary of the route they would take. The reason Company B followed the old Glades Pike, nearly the present-day Route 31, versus the old Pennsylvania route, or present-day Route 30, was the fact it was closer to the port of call, Wheeling, Virginia, on the Ohio River. Yes, Wheeling, Virginia. This part of Virginia did not become West Virginia until 1863. From Wheeling, they would take passage on a steamboat down the Ohio River, onto the Mississippi, and down to Louisiana. Then up the Red River to the Cane River, that would wind its way to Natchitoches, Louisiana, where Fort Jessup once guarded the western boundary of the United States. Nearly half of the soldiers that served in the Mexican-American War came through Fort Jessup and overland. From here they would take the El Camino Real, a 400-mile journey by road to San Antonio de Bar, Texas. The El Camino Real was the only direct overland route that was built by the Spanish to run from Mexico City to Natchitoches, accessing the Cane and Red Rivers. Company B's trip from Somerset, Pennsylvania to San Antonio took over 2 months, arriving there in September. Today, the journey would take nearly 24 hours by car and a little over 2.5 hours by plane. I wonder how many more of Captain Washington's men sustained injuries and death before reaching Texas during such an arduous journey. Don't believe we can possibly imagine or understand the fortitude it took to make such an expedition. Drawing a close to this story, on February 23, 1847, Company B, 4th Light Artillery, would hold the flank and distinguish themselves at the Battle of Buena Vista against overwhelming odds of Mexicans under the command of General Santa Anna. I'd like to mention 2 other Somerset Countians who were at the Battle of Buena Vista. I found a letter written by Charles Kimmel, who was from Brothers Valley Township, Somerset County, Pennsylvania. He also participated in the Battle of Buena Vista, but with a different unit. He mentions that he had met Henry Rink of Berlin, Pennsylvania, who had joined the Washington's artillery in Somerset back in July 1st of 1846, when the battery stopped there for the evening to encamp and bury Private Poucher. Charles Kimmel said, Henry Rink was in good spirits and was well contented. Later in the letter he said, I was walking over the battlefield after the Battle of Buena Vista, and found Henry Rink's body laying on the field dead, shot in the head. How horrifying and sad it must have been for Private Kimmel to find his friend in such a manner. Captain Washington sent a letter addressed to the postmaster of Berlin, Pennsylvania, notifying family and friends of the death of Private Rink. Quoting from his letter, "He fell at his gun on the 23rd of February at the Battle of Bueno Vista, while fighting nobly against the Mexicans, who were signally defeated by our arms on the same day. Henry Rink was a fine specimen of a soldier while living and died gloriously." Captain Washington's steadfast courage in action was recognized with promotion and later becoming military governor of New Mexico. At war's end, the United States would claim over 525,000 square miles of territory ceded by Mexico, including all or parts of present-day Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, Wyoming, and all claims to Texas. President Polk claimed the largest land acquisition of any ceded president. For Private Henry Rink, his body would remain on the sun-baked foreign soil of the Buena Vista battlefield in present-day Mexico. The same year of his death, at a 4th of July celebration, Somerset County dignitaries remembered and honored Henry Rink with a toast. For 18-year-old Private Samuel Boucher, the war with Mexico claimed him only a small piece of quiet real estate overlooking the Somerset County seat of government. Thank you for watching this episode of Tales of the Alleghenies. Please subscribe and tell us what you think in the comments below.